Hey everybody, welcome to We Run on Reruns. I'm Amanda, and I'm here with my brother Eric.
How you guys doing? We are here today with episode 2 of season 4 of Stranger Things. This is chapter 2, Vecna's Curse, and we are now with the gang where they're kind of split up in a lot of different areas. We have our California group, and we've got our Hawkins group, and I think we're soon to have another group as well. Not necessarily today, but upcoming. So, I don't know. I'll just start with this. Not always a huge fan of when the groups are divided like this, and I think that's part of why these early season episodes are always a little tougher for me. I like it when they're all together in the same place doing the same thing. But I will say, season 4 has always been, like, my favorite one. If I'm going to say, hey, this is the best season, I think season 4 is pretty high up on that list. But I do feel like season 4 starts slower, but on this rewatch, I'm really having a good time with it so far.
Yeah, it's a really good season, and it for me it started pretty strong, because even though they're all divided, we have just nonstop action, right? And we're trying to understand not only what's going on here, but also what's going on with Hopper, who we learn in this episode is in a Russian prison. And then we're also just understanding, as we were talking about in the last episode, they're all kind of starting to figure out their own paths in school. But also trying to now being pulled back together, because guess what? This nightmare is not over. Their town is, as they're talking about. Yeah, it might actually be cursed.
It might actually be a way, the way they're thinking of it. It totally makes sense. No, but I think that's the thing. I think even though they're broken into their own groups, I am enjoying each of their own storylines a little bit more than I have in the past. And they've broken them into some slightly different groupings than they used to. So I think that's also fun and interesting. And I gave last week's episode a 9.0. And I think you did too, didn't you? Yeah,
yes,
we both
I did.
And that was so far and away high for what we have given a first episode of a season. So coming into this one, I was very interested to see if it just dropped off or if we just kept riding that wave, and we'll see how it goes.
I know. I'm very interested to hear when we get there of what the IMDb rating is for this. It's because for me, this was a pretty cool episode. Just to remind everyone where we left things off in the last episode, we had the kids struggling with adjusting to high school and changes in their friendship dynamics, but also planning for the upcoming spring break where Mike is going to visit 11 in California. We also had Hopper contacting Joyce through a note she found in a Russian doll. We also saw Eddie trying to help another student deal with what she believes was psychosis, but then he witnessed her being killed in his home by what we now know is Vecna. And it ended in a really crazy dramatic scene with Eddie just witnessing all of her limbs getting snapped, and then he was out of there. And that's where we pick things up right at that point, although we have this opening scene which we will get into right now. So this episode is called Chapter 2, the one with Vecna's I'm calling it the one with
no,
it's not. It's just Vecna's
Chapter
Curse.
2, Vecna's Curse.
Guys,
sorry,
I'm going to leave that in there just because I'm laughing to myself. We also talk about Friends. Maybe this is a little moment of promotion here. We also, if you're into Friends, we also talk about Friends every week. And every one of their episodes is called The One With blah, blah, blah. So yes, this is not the one with Vecna's Curse, but I actually did write that down.
So every Stranger Things episode is chapter whatever, right? So you just doubled down. You went chapter the one with. You just knocked them both out.
Oh, I did both. The whole thing. Hey, it would be a good mashup, which I have seen on Instagram, but that's for another day. So yes, we have Vecna's Curse. This is chapter 2 of season 4. And so we're gonna be talking about these different plot lines within the episode. So I know in the past we've just gone straight through the episode as it happens, and we're gonna group things into the different plot lines within this episode. So where we start here is with Hopper. So that is the first storyline that we're going to address. And Eric, one thing that I noted here is that this is like, I think the shortest pre-credit intro I've seen on this show, right? Like it was like 2 minutes, not even. Maybe a minute.
It was really short. It was very brief. And it started with this like flashback to Joyce and Hopper, and it shows kind of what we saw towards the end of season 3 from Hopper's perspective. Where he's at the key that they were using to open the gate, and the whole thing is exploding, and he's jumping like over the railings in the opposite direction of Joyce, and is then unconscious on the ground as this whole thing has, exploded, and is welcomed by Russian guards as he climbs to the top of the area.
Yeah, and they knock him out, and that was really all we saw before the credits. And it's like, I couldn't help but think, Eric, didn't Joyce look over that railing? I thought when she went out for a minute, she had like looked around, but I'm thinking
she went out there, never got
Murray.
Yeah, never got all the way out. Murray stopped her and pulled her back because they had to run.
Yeah, and it was so like he's gone.
They took out, and I'm just gonna be real with you here. My issues with this runs very deep because we saw 3 guards walking into the area that were like trying to stop Joyce and Murray and Hopper, and they got literally disintegrated into nothing. Right. Hopper is midair during this explosion. And he just lands on the ground, fine, wakes up, no problem. Like, I have a really difficult time understanding the concept of this. And even at some point during this scene, Murray is talking to Joyce like, hey, listen, he's been disintegrated. He's not there anymore. And yeah, I don't know. So I'm with Murray.
Okay, but so it's interesting you say that. So yeah, it's what I love. We do have this moment where Murray, which we'll talk about the when Mike arrives in a little bit, but there's this like crossover at the airport where the kids are leaving the airport and Murray's at a cab. And at first I'm thinking, oh, he's there to like pick them up. Realizing, oh no, he's arriving to go see Joyce. And it was just this moment where they just crossed right by him. And then there's Murray arriving. But so he's at Joyce's. Joyce is showing him this letter that she got. And I'm like, okay, this is I'm with Joyce here. This is way too much of a coincidence, though. It's like it's signed Enzo.
Hold on.
Don't
get me wrong,
right?
With all of the information presented, if I'm Joyce, if I'm Murray, I believe that Hop is alive.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is,
how is that so?
That's not the thing. It's not possible. But okay, he's alive. So we move. And so these are some of the things that I go, that's not real. And I will say, I did see this interview with the directors who they were talking about the Duffer Brothers. They were talking about in these early seasons, were they going to kill off any of the main characters? And they said the closest they ever got was this right here. This was the moment that was the closest for killing off one of the main characters in these early seasons. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very glad that they didn't. I think that would have really changed the dynamics within the whole group. Hop isn't exactly, I wouldn't call him the glue, but his presence is really critical for these kids, really critical for 11. I like that he maintained his status, even though they removed him from the core storyline for a significant part of or not the core storyline, but from the presence within the group. Although you could make that argument even for last season too, because he really
I would make that argument.
Yeah,
I would absolutely make that argument for last season. I would say that Hopper was a critical character through the first 2 seasons and has now become kind of a side character. I mean, if we're ranking the group. And the group is deep at this point. We've added so many people to the group. Like, Hopper's connection to the group is slightly more than Murray's at this point.
Right. Well, and he's still driving a lot of the...
He drives the 11 storyline.
Exactly. And his presence, I think, is really important for keeping her more grounded. And that's why I like that he stayed in. But we're getting these flashbacks though of, I think there's an opportunity there that they could have handed that baton to Joyce and had her run with it. Right. Absolutely. I think 11 moved away with Joyce. So yeah.
With her. Yeah. And there were a lot of connections with Joyce and 11 going all the way back to season 1 in the bathtub, where she was being that mother figure to her that she had never had before. So there was a storyline path that baton could have been handed off, and you could have killed Hopper here and nobody would have worried about it.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and so we move.
I would have worried about it. I would have been upset.
I know.
Because even though, listen, we've established that Hopper is not exactly our favorite character often in these episodes.
In fact, let me just state for the record that I have now tabulated all of the entire thing, right? Hopper is tied for my most least favorite character. And he is your most least favorite character.
And I'm still making the argument. I really enjoy him though. And so it's funny. Yeah. It's like, as a whole, even though I get annoyed by him and the decisions he makes, I love his presence on the show, and I would have it no other way than to keep him around. So very excited when I saw him back.
I'm curious how I do ratings throughout season 4. Because I'm not a huge fan of Hopper's storyline this season, but we'll see where it goes, and we'll see how I connect to it on the rewatch. And I'm afraid that I'm going to go, yeah, he was great in the first 2 seasons, and after that, like, I never cared about him again, which is very likely. But we'll see. Let's move throughout this and see where we go.
This is a tough scene where the Russian guard is saying, like, bring out the elephant. And it's like, wait, what now? And it's just this mask that is it deprives you of oxygen except for through this tube, which this other guard is being told to squeeze it and not let him breathe. And it's just like, it's awful. They are just torturing him to try to actually figure out who Joyce is, because they have a photo of her and he's just refusing to give it up. And
we also have this. He works for her. Like, who do you work for? Who is this? And he's like, I don't know, she's wearing a Russian uniform. You tell me.
Right. And Murray is we have these other moments where Murray's telling Joyce, like, listen, Hopper's a tough guy, but if the KGB have him, like, he's gonna give it up. Like, we're kind of screwed here. But then you see him with the elephant mask on, and but Murray has this other plan. He has this other phone, right, that they can use to make a call to this phone number, because part of what that letter was from Enzo was this phone number to call. So They're trying to call and figure out what's happening. We're seeing where it's dialing out to, and it's this payphone in Russia. And it's ringing several times, and I'm thinking, like, well, how is someone possibly going to know that this thing is ringing? Apparently someone hears it or has some other way of figuring out that it's ringing on their... I'm not sure if they were just waiting around for it, but someone picks it up, right? And it's someone that they're calling themselves Enzo. Eric, did you recognize who this character is? Who the actor is, rather?
Okay. The answer is no. I thought I did. It looked like the guy, and I'm gonna pull up this guy just so I can give you the guy that I thought it was. But it looked like a guy that since we cover Friends, my mind is on Friends all the time. There is a actor who's on Friends late in the series, who is acting in a co-part with Joey, where Joey's got to like leave the scene to get to Chandler and Monica's wedding. And I forget that guy's name, but he's very famous, and I just never remember what his name is. And so I thought that it was him, but it's not. So with that, I don't know who this guy is. No.
I think so, Eric, just to give a little bit more context to what you're saying. I think Richard Crosby is that guy. Yes, that's Richard Crosby, which I don't know what else I know him from, but he does have a similar look. And especially at that time period, I think that we saw him in Friends. I could totally, now that you say that, and because we're always talking about Friends as well, it's like, yeah, I can see where your mind went there. But this guy, that's
why my mind got there.
Notoriously bad with... Yeah, so I myself, self-admittedly, I'm notoriously bad with like face recognition. I've come to realize this about myself with like actors is I will hear voices often. I'm like, I'll put that together right away. But if someone like changes their look too, it takes me a minute to get there. And Pedro will like call something out. And he's like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so from whatever. And I'm like, what? Like, so either way, this guy, Tom Walashka, I'm probably butchering his name there. I believe it's a Polish last name. So it's Wlaschcha. Either way, this guy was in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
He was this character, Jaqen Hagar, who is the faceless man who trains Arya on how to become nobody. And he has like the long hair, he's wearing the cloaks, and he doesn't have any facial hair in but just a totally different look.
That's okay. First of all, that's a show that at some point we should probably rewatch that one. But
that's a good one.
That is definitely not a pull I would have made. I see it now, but absolutely no, I wouldn't be able to do that. My wife is so much better at seeing somebody, and I'll be like, oh, she's like, yeah, it's from this and this and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you got it. Only once in a million years do I get one that she didn't know, and it's like a huge victory. But most of the time, she's just locked in. So I totally understand that.
Oh, yeah,
I'm usually finding somebody that's kind of a doppelganger, but not quite. And yeah.
Same. Yeah, I'll do the opposite where I'm like, hey, that's that guy. Pedro's like, no, it's not at all. That's not the same person. Must be a family trait. Love it.
Must be.
Yeah. And so we have, but yeah, so this guy, he's Enzo. So he's picking up this phone on the other end of this payphone, right? And so now Joyce and Murray are listening in, and they're asking him questions, trying to get to the bottom of like, who is this guy, trying to pick up on as many clues as possible. And luckily Murray has been recording this whole thing. And what this guy does say though is that he is stuck, that Hopper is stuck. And that's one of the main takeaways that they're getting, because we're also getting these flashes to what's actually happening with Hopper, and he's now kind of barely alive, being dragged away after being tortured. And the guards are joking kind of about sending him to a doctor, which we realize is not really a doctor. He's being sent to being held in prison. So that's he's not getting medical treatment here. But
no, and they say at some point that they're going to send him to Kamchatka, which at one point I thought, which is in Russia, but at one point I thought maybe all this stuff with him was happening stateside, and they were sending him across to, now they were actually like officially sending him to Russia. And I don't know if I missed something in there or not, but maybe they were in a different part of Russia, and now it's a more remote area in Russia, which Kamchatka is. So there was definitely a sending of him to a more serious place in a Russian prison.
Yeah, I guess I was interpreting this as when he was being tortured, he was already in Russia.
I thought so too. I always took it that way.
Yeah, because then when they're showing him getting dragged through the streets, I'm like, this is not looking like they're in the United States. It didn't. No. Yeah. But yeah, so Joyce and Murray are listening back through this recording, and they're also hearing there's this woman in the background who's trying to talk to who we'll just call Enzo. And they're trying to tune in on what this woman is saying. And Murray picks up on her calling Enzo a moozer, which is a Russian slang for like a cop, like sort of what you'd hear in the States about like a pig or something like that. And it could also be used to call out someone who might be a guard. And so they're realizing, wait, Enzo's saying Hopper is stuck right now. Wait, This guy is most likely a prison guard. So they're kind of piecing all this together. So, I mean, really, that's sort of the piece, the main chunk of the Hopper storyline here, that he's being tortured, he's being held in prison, and now they have a lead on what's going on, right?
The only thing is that Murray kept telling Joyce, like, hey, we need proof of life. And they never got proof of life. Right. But they're going to take this, background noise, which Enzo didn't want them to hear, and say, well, that's good enough for us to start acting on. So they're now off to the bank.
And I missed critical piece, right, is that Enzo wants $40,000 in Alaska. So yeah, that piece is also, so I guess the plan is
they need to get to Yuri's Fish and something. What was it? I wrote it down here somewhere.
Fish
and Fly. Yuri's Fish and Fly. It's in Nome, Alaska, and they need $40,000. And basically, they're supposed to hand it to some guy. That guy's going to get it to Enzo, and then Enzo's going to unstick Hopper. We'll see.
So, Eric, how awkward was this airport scene with Mike arriving?
It's the most awkward. It's the most awkward, and it's one of those things where, it becomes, we talk in our friends' podcast a lot about sometimes how Ross and Rachel blend the line between like, well, they're dating, they're now just friends, now they're not dating, like this would never work in real life, and it's like, right, it doesn't. So here we have a scenario where Mike is getting off the plane and 11 is there as the girlfriend greeting him, and Mike is there as, Will is there as Mike's best friend, and he also is excited to see Mike, but Mike is not as interested in seeing Will as he is in seeing 11, even though they've got a much longer history together. And so there is definitely some weirdness where, like, Mike gets off the plane, he gives Elle a kiss, Will goes up to give him a hug, Mike's just kind of like, hey, what's up, man? And, like, it's just hard to watch. from Will's perspective. From Will's perspective, it's hard to watch. From Mike's perspective, I'm still kind of like, dude, like, you wouldn't say hey to your, like, friend, your best friend from forever ago. And 11 at the same time is in her own little galaxy of shamockery here. So this is just weird all the way around.
Listen, and these are kids who they have spent a large part of growing up, like they're hanging out playing D&D in the basement, which I think is really cool and great, but it doesn't mean that they have necessarily the best social skills or are the most extroverted people on the planet, right? So I think that maybe this isn't the strong suit anyway
I think
getting back together and communicating their feelings is all.
I think Mike and Will represent that a lot more than Dustin and Lucas. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
Dustin and Lucas are part of that group, but Lucas, and we'll get to him in a little bit, he's kind of found his own path and is doing his own thing, and I think that's good for him. And Dustin knows who he is from the get and owns it. And
Absolutely.
Mike and Will kind of flirt with that balance a little bit of, you know, trying to figure out their ways here, and it is a little hard to watch in this scene specifically when Mike essentially rejects talking to Will, even though Will's clearly got something there that he wants to show Mike immediately that we never see.
Well, and then you also have this brief moment where Eleven's looking down at the little tag that's attached to the flowers. And Eric, from a guy's perspective, did you understand what happened there in that moment?
I really didn't. I didn't notice the tag as much. What did it say?
So 11 looked down, and there's these flowers that was very sweet that Mike brought. These like
absolutely
yellow and purple flowers, and he's kind of awkwardly explaining how he handpicked them for her. Great, but what is she first looking at? There's this little tag that's attached to the flowers, and on it says to 11 from Mike.
Yeah.
So what is she looking at? What?
She's looking at the word from.
Yes, right. So it's like, so she's just like, and you see this immediate disappointment come across her face because all she's thinking about is, we left each other last and we said we loved each other. You know what I mean? And so and now she's like, all right. And you could just tell she's like, well, but she is really trying to lay it on thick about having this positive energy, right? Like she's talking about, hey, let's go to the roller skating rink and I want to introduce you to all my friends. And like Will is kind of like over her shoulder immediately sort of blowing up her spot like friends, like what are
you talking about?
You hang out there all the time. Like what are you doing right now? Because Will is wanting to sort of like keep it real. And I think again, as we talked about in earlier episodes from last season, like Will is wanting to really, let's just keep doing what we'd been doing and still not wanting to move past that, right?
No, but he also, I mean, listen, I don't want to jump too far into the future here, but Will is clearly wanting to make sure that things stay the status quo. He wants things to go on about how they've been. He wants to be able to like have his friend come over and play D&D and have a good time. And Mike's not interested in that because he wants to hang out with 11, but 11 wants to do things that are crazy. Like I don't really understand 11's perspective in this at all.
I struggle with this a lot.
I mean, I understand that she is the most socially awkward of the whole group because she doesn't even understand society still sometimes.
Right.
But she's getting better. She's going to school. She understands situations that she should not put herself into. And this is just asking for problems here.
And what struck me here is, 11 always has the line, friends don't lie, right? Like she brings that up time and time again. And I'm thinking, a lot. She knows what a lie is, right? Because even when Will confronts her, like, why are you lying to Mike? You don't do these things. And she's like totally in denial, I feel like. And she's like, well, we do come here, but Angela's not your friend. I mean, Angela is the girl who tricked her and is always harassing her in class and is the biggest bully in the school. And it's
and
very
you came here for a party. Yes. It was Joyce's work party.
Right.
It was not like a birthday party with your friends. So you are misleading while maybe not fully lying. You're misinterpreting on purpose.
Yeah, I think she's just really wanting to present this very fun, free-spirited, probably something she's seen in the movies, to Mike. And
no, it's bad. It's rough.
This is really bad. I mean, I thought that the bullying in the last episode was bad. Eric, you and I have major issues with Angela, but this just ratchets it up so much more. And, because Angela's arriving at the roller rink looking like Barbie from, the latest Barbie movie. Her group looked like they were straight out of that movie, right? With all
they did
really over the top haircuts and really what I would
the bright clothing
and almost cartoon like expressions on their faces, just very
So like we were talking beforehand about bullying, right? And bullying in schools, and like I know we had a conversation about what bullying has, like the concept of that throughout our country and what we do and how we try to like combat bullying. I will say this is, as you're describing these kids as like cartoonish, like over the top bully, like characters looking like they're out of a Barbie movie or something like that. This scene of bullying seems also over the top, aggressive. Like, yeah, bullying exists in schools. Like, to the point where you get the DJ to put on a song and a spotlight on someone. You get to like skate around them unstopped, throw a milkshake on them. Like, nobody says anything. It just all is accepted by everybody. That's not real.
Like,
that's not real.
Not a single person is going in and stopping
this. I mean, Mike is coming from a distance, but that concept of like, is this how bullying is? No. It is a lot more subtle than that. Yeah. But it is still an issue. I'm not going to say it's not an issue. Yeah. It's very much an issue. But this is extreme. This is cartoon bullying is what this is.
Well, and what the milkshake on 11 was really, they were pulling it back. The Duffer brothers were pulling this back to like Carrie with the pig's blood dropped on her. And I mean, but there is a reason why there is bullying as a central theme in a lot of what we've seen in movies and television shows. It continues to be talked about because it definitely is a problem, but this is like a totally very much exaggerated and extreme version of what could possibly happen. But my goodness, wow.
It's an extreme version, but it is still, it's not, it is an issue that still needs to be dealt with today. And I don't know if this is more what it looked like in the 80s. I don't believe so, but it could have been.
It could have been, right? Because things were just, I think, the way that things were communicated and talked about, mental health being one of those things, it just wasn't addressed in the same way that we address it now. And we've gotten a lot better about those things. So I think that brings up, that pushes these issues to the forefront. People are just that much more aware of this type of behavior. But so in this scene, Eric, my biggest problem, I'm sorry, I know you did say Mike did eventually start to skate out there. Mike and Will are like witnessing this circle of people forming around
not the
11.
first time.
And I'm like, like, I know that in the last episode, like, Will he was further away. He was
farther away. He was there, though.
The
He was within ability to do something here.
They are right there. So 11 is essentially pulled out onto the rink with Angela, and why are they not immediately going out there? I don't know if he was skating really at all, but Mike had the skates on. He could have just gone right out there. He has zero consequences with these kids. He's not even from here. You know what I mean? So it's like he has nothing to lose except to help Elle in this situation. This is horrible. I am very
his move
in these kids.
His move was go to the DJ. He went to the DJ and try and stop the DJ. But that's not the move.
No.
The move is to go out there and break up the whole thing if you can.
This is bad. I don't know. But obviously they are not to blame because Angela and her posse are the ones to blame. But I just felt like, guys, what is happening here? And Will is just totally frozen. And really just, then Will continues to, what to me felt like, just focus on himself. Even after that, 11 is like, she runs off, and Will is, talking to Mike about their friendship at that point. They don't even know where 11 is. And it's like, Will, I don't know. It just felt it did not sit right with me. I really struggled with Will in this episode.
I think all three of them have a lot of issues here. They're all like in their own head about what they're doing or what they're presenting and what they want to do, but none of them are really reading the room. None of them are understanding what the other people are interested in. So the three of them are really disjointed right now. And you'd expect that they would be very much on the same page, but they're not. They're not close.
Well, even the idea 11 comes out and talks to Angela about just pretending to be her friend. I'm like, 11. Yeah, I mean, just,
well, like she
wants an apology.
Like at the end, she just, despite being bullied, despite having the milkshake thrown on her, she goes over and tries to like get Angela to just say she's sorry and apologize, and Angela essentially just laughs in her face.
This is so brutal.
But she also crosses the line.
Talks about Hop again.
Because she talks about Hopper. Like, you should go cry to your dad. Oh, wait, you can't.
Oh,
that is so far over the line from Angela. It's unbelievable.
That's why, Eric, listen, I do not always condone violence. But in this situation, I have zero problems with what 11 did.
No, me neither.
Okay. I don't know how Eric's gonna feel about this, but I'm like, no. Listen, this girl is torturing her. She is torturing her, and no one is doing anything about this.
Sometimes this is what happens. Sometimes you just got to punch the bully back.
I don't know if this girl has ever received any consequences. It seems like
But that's how this happens. Because you have someone who has received absolutely no consequences for anything they've ever done at all. And so they just feel like they can say and do whatever they want. And, she learned a lesson when she got punched in the face with a roller skate.
And then for Mike to come up to her and he's like, "What have you done?" Just like what we saw from Papa in season 1 when she was a little kid and she starts having flashbacks of that moment where she's standing there and everyone in the lab is dead, or in the I guess it was a lab, in that when she was in the rainbow room is dead, and just keeps asking her, "What have you done?" Mike is sort of, making her think back to that because and I'm thinking, what do you think she's done, man? And you've seen her do much worse than this. This is just using a roller skate instead of her powers, right? Because she didn't have her powers anymore, so I'm going to use the power that I do have behind my arm with this skate into your head.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was frustrating. I get that. I think he just didn't expect maybe this from her, but why wouldn't he?
I don't know. I would have expected. I mean, I think the only reason you don't expect it is because you think, well, without her powers, she's just going to be this meek individual who doesn't really know how to fit into society. And we now see that no, she has a boiling point too. Like she will go over the top if feels like she's really up against the wall. And she, like I said, I feel like the hammer home point is even after being bullied and made fun of in the middle of the rink, she went up to her and asked her to apologize.
She did?
Like that's the hammer home point for me. She still stood there.
She did.
Face to face and said, "Listen, tell me that you're sorry." And she didn't.
Gave her the chance.
And she dug herself she dug herself even deeper. And it's like, well, now
you're done.
Hey,
yeah.
That is what it is.
And then all of those people just stood around staring. Instead, it's like, okay, everyone in this town must know that this girl is the bully, right? You'd think they'd be giving her a round of applause here. I mean, because Elle can't be the only kid that she's bullied. I don't know. It's just very strange.
Oh my gosh, no. No, I'm sure she's not, but she's certainly target number one right now, and I have a feeling she will continue to be for a little bit.
All right. Well, I guess we have to move on from the Elle
story. Before we move out of California, let me just say there was one scene also. Jonathan didn't have a whole lot going on here, but he did, when they dropped the kids off at the roller rink, kind of reach out to Will and say, hey, like, have fun. And then he also was hitting golf balls with Argyle into a junkyard, which was kind of a scene that I don't know, stuck with me for some reason, where he is talking about how he applied and got into a community college and isn't going to go to college with Nancy. He's instead going to go where Argyle is going because he feels like it's a better move for his family, but he doesn't want to tell Nancy because he doesn't want her to know so she doesn't give up on her dreams. And so that's all. Like, Jonathan doesn't have a lot happening here, but I feel like it's worth mentioning that those are the pieces of his story that are being told at this point. But I guess we should now jump into the Eddie Munson of it all.
Well, do we want to touch on Lucas first, really quick?
Well, it's really it's all together, right? I mean, all these things are going to be tied together here. So, we can start with Lucas. Let's do the Lucas side.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so I just mentioned that because this is more of a brief
side of the story.
Lucas, a quicker point to talk about here with Lucas. I do like how we bring this back to Benny's Burgers, though. That was great. How Benny's Burgers is now abandoned, right? And we show Lucas in here with the basketball team where he is extremely hungover. And this is the group that's supposed to be, an improvement for him to be hanging out with these kids. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm sort of backpedaling here on.
Well, I want to push back on improvement and say popular. It's not necessarily an improvement to be popular. It is. No, it is the popular.
That's what I was saying
right. But it is the popular group of people. Now, whether or not that's good or bad and that's kind of what Mike and Dustin were trying to say. But he viewed it as a possible ticket to a much easier high school experience. But all in all,
it's not
maybe
so good.
Maybe not so much.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, so these kids are all just hanging out in an abandoned building getting drunk. There's like a keg there. Either way, this is how they've been celebrating the win, which this is high school hanging out. I get it. This isn't exactly, that shocking or that far-fetched at all. But you get these glimpses in all of these upcoming scenes of these kids turning on the news and seeing what's happening out there at Eddie Munson's. And they're not getting details. They don't know who was killed, but they know a student was killed. And Then we have who I've been calling Captain Crunch, who I think his actual name is Jason.
His name is Jason. Yes, I did catch that a couple times. They referenced his first name at least once or twice in this one, but I was calling him the Captain as well, but it's Jason.
Yeah. So Jason was looking out to see the cops right outside because Eddie's must be like pretty close to where Benny's is. So they were
no. The cops were coming to interview Jason.
Yeah, but I just thought it was all kind of in the relative area.
Oh no, I think they were coming there because they knew he was there. They knew that was sort of the hangout spot. Right, and so they know. Well, they know who's dead. The kids though have no idea because they're not reporting it, but they're coming to talk to Jason because he's the boyfriend.
Yeah. So Lucas is also, we see he's freaking out because the cops are now questioning their captain. I'm sure he's running through in my mind, what am I doing here hanging out with these guys now? You know, like what is happening out there? Where are my other friends?
Right.
But I'm sure they've all been told, why do you guys hang tight? Is I'm guessing what happened while we talk with Jason.
I think they just asked them to all, they were all standing out on this porch outside and it's like, hey, don't go anywhere. But at the same time, you can't be in here while we do this. So that way they had a one-on-one with Jason, which ultimately Jason puts it all together. Just based on the questions that are being asked, he realizes that Chrissy is the one that's been hurt, and he also realizes that it was at Eddie Munson's. And
that part was on the news, and we don't really know what the cops told him because we then go outside with the rest of the team, and he's just asking, well, was it Chrissy? Why are you asking me about Chrissy? And then the cops are just looking at him, and we have the new police chief is there and glasses.
But they ask him if she would have been hanging out with Eddie Munson because they ask if she would be buying drugs, and and he's like, no, she would never do that. No, this, and it's like, well, yeah, she was. And so these are the pieces though that he puts together, thinking that Eddie did something horrible, which this next scene where Jason is rallying his team is the most important one, I think, because he's very much acting like Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. He's rallying the villagers to go hunt the beast. You know, that's the vibe that I got from this whole thing. And they're all like, yeah, let's get him. I'm like, holy smokes, what are we doing here? Meanwhile, Lucas is trying to explain to them, because they're all like, well, listen, this is what happens when you play D&D. You get sucked into that culture, which is what the article was saying in Newsweek, which is what the TV reports were saying when we started this season. And it's like, but it's not. You know, it's the same thing where people don't understand something, so they immediately want to blame their parenting failures on something else, and so it becomes, well, Marilyn Manson's music is, too much, and that's where we, see that, or rap music is changing this, or Mortal Kombat is a video game that shows blood and it's too much for our kids, and
absolutely
all these things have happened throughout time. D&D was just part of that.
Mm-hmm. Something you don't understand. Let's just place the blame there. There was a lot of satanic panic going around at this point. And so it was just they're blending the reality versus what isn't real. They can no longer tell the difference between the two. And this is, Lucas is trying to explain even his sister's into this. And
well, because he doesn't want to say that he is. He can't say that he's in Hellfire Club to them.
I thought he did.
No, he definitely did not. Because he talked about the Hellfire Club, and he's like, "Oh well, my sister's involved in that. She plays D&D all the time."
And maybe he just said, "I know the Hellfire Club." Yeah.
No, I don't know that he associated at all. He disassociated from Hellfire Club for sure, but he explained knowing Dungeons and Dragons through Erica's eyes, even though we all know he's like,
He's the one who
way
showed it to
deep
Erica.
into it, but they don't know that. And he's trying to maintain popular status.
Yeah, this is all right, Lucas. Time to you need to find your friends here. This is getting a little bit crazy, but it is good to have, hey, he's kind of their inside man now.
It's
seeing
true.
what's happening with these kids, and he will continue to track their movements, which is good. So it's good for that point for sure. But yeah, they're now gonna be on the witch hunt to find Eddie, right? So you have all these different groups that are now, we have the cops looking for Eddie. Now we have the basketball team looking for Eddie. We're also now going to move on to talking about how Max and Dustin are also looking for Eddie. And that's kind of that next plot point where, Max, I love that when she is waking up and seeing the police outside and looking and seeing the body on the ground in Eddie's trailer, realizing, oh, I saw Chrissy go in there last night and she could tell that was her uniform. She's immediately going over to Dustin's house. And it's like, good for you, Matt. Like, I love that she's like, something's going on here. And she recognized there were flashing lights at her house. She was hearing screaming. She saw Eddie bolt out. He looked scared. And she just had that gut instinct that something.
Well, that's way more to
happening.
go on than what Joyce and Murray are doing.
Right.
She's got the flashing lights. She hears the scream. She sees him run out terrified. That's all the pieces you need to go. Something is up. We need to move. And so going to Dustin makes a ton of sense.
Because he knows Eddie.
Mike and Will aren't around. They're in
Right.
California.
Right.
Lucas is MIA. You know where Dustin's at. Let's go
Yeah.
talk to Dustin.
And I just love that because instead of just sitting on this and thinking, not getting involved, she's like, all right, I am going to go talk to someone that knows Eddie as well. And also knows about all the weird stuff that I do.
Right.
So yeah, she's going right over to Dustin's, and Dustin is like, listen, this is not something that Eddie would do. Eddie did not do this. No way. And we also have Max and Dustin then heading right over to the movie rental place, meeting up with
Family
Steve
Video.
and Robin, the family video. And I just like that we're seeing, I know, Erica, as you've said, you love seeing the group come together. So now we do have at least a number of those kids back together.
Yeah, and like I said at the very beginning, I like the fact that this is now a new grouping, right? We still have Dustin, Steve, and Robin together, but we're replacing Erica with Max, right? And we have Mike and Will and 11 as a grouping, right? And that's a slightly different thing. And Lucas is now kind of the one on his own, which is not typical for
Right.
Lucas either. So I like the way that they divided these storylines to give us a fresh perspective on everybody.
Yeah. Although, do you know what this made me think of a little bit with Lucas was back to season 1 where him and Dustin were in the fight and he went off on his own and was trying to figure it out. Right. And so he did
he did that for a single episode, which was very good. But now it's a very different feel of being on his own here because in Lucas's eyes, I think he feels as though his friends don't care about him anymore. Because they're not coming to any of his stuff. They didn't try to come to the game. They didn't see any of those things. So for him, it's a little bit different. But anyway, we're here at Family Video where Dustin is barging in and saying, hey, listen, we're setting up a base of operations. Like, how many phones you got? And Steve and Robin are like, listen, we can't just shut down the place. It's a weekend. It's a Saturday. It's like our busiest day to rent videos. We're not shutting down the store. But they kind of do anyway. And they explain the situation, and they get on board because they know just as much as everybody else. So Robin's on the phone, Max is on the phone, Dustin's on a phone. They're all trying to like gather information for where could Eddie be. Meanwhile, Steve is, essentially still trying to run the store, which I find very interesting because it's like they can't close the store. This is their busiest day. They can't leave. Like they're too much responsibility to their work. So Steve's got to help the customers. Meanwhile, 5 minutes later, they just slap the close sign on the front door and run out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, right, because Max is picking up on this lead, this guy Reefer Rick, and Steve is saying, well, let's bring that information to the police. I'm sure they have more details on where this guy lives, because I guess no one really knows.
Not the worst idea.
It's a bad idea. This is like Hopper deciding that they should call the cops to report on. They know that there's probably something else going on here.
Well, no, but his idea was, we'll bring the name to the cops. The cops will know what his last name is. We'll be able to find him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but why the cops wouldn't share that detail with the kids?
Probably not, but I think like that's the thought process in Steve's head, and like at some point that makes a lot of sense. I will say their alternate solution here was awesome.
Yes, Robin is looking up. Well, I can figure out a better way to find his last name. We know this kid's a stoner. Let's figure out what movies they've all rented, because she looks up just a list of Ricks. And luckily, Rick was his real name. And they just run down. They find this one guy who has, I think it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High and like all the Cheech and Chong movies.
A whole bunch of Cheech and Chong movies.
Yeah. And so they're like,
that's the guy.
I feel like this is him. And this is someone that Eddie would hang out with a lot. And so they're thinking, well, maybe he's there. And when they go there, they're pounding on the door. Dustin is kind of freaking out. Like, they all have flashlights looking in the windows. I'm like, guys, this is probably maybe wanted to be a little bit more subtle, but I think they're wanting to make it known to him that, like, this isn't the cops. We're here to help you. But they're seeing no signs of life inside. But then notice that there is this shed out back. They go in there, and Eddie is hiding under these tarps in this boat in the middle. He ends up jumping out of there and is clearly just traumatized with what's happened and holding up a broken bottle to Steve's neck until they talk him down. And this is where, they do a really good job talking him off the ledge here. And Max is like, listen, try us on what we will believe and won't believe, because we've seen some stuff.
He starts trying to explain it, and he's like, listen, I know how this sounds like. I know what this sounds like. And they're like, we believe you. Right. Like, and that's when Dustin starts to explain. He tries to explain like what the Upside Down is and how it exists, and it's not it is real. It's a thing that's here. And he's trying to let Eddie in on it in a very subtle, basic way, so not to freak Eddie out completely, but also let him know, like, hey, we have seen this. We have experience with this. Tell us everything. Yeah. And he does. He starts to kind of warm up to it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where they call this now Vecna's curse, because of Vecna is this dark wizard from Dungeons and Dragons, and that's something obviously that Eddie is very much into as well. So he just fits right in with this group, and with how they've been talking about the Upside Down and all of these characters within it, right? So he's picking up on everything that they're describing and right on the same page as them. So I'm glad that they found him, and now they're able to help him here. But we also have this storyline with Nancy and Fred, who's this kid who's been working at the paper with her, and they're trying to investigate what's happened at Eddie's house, and they've kind of weaseled their way into the neighborhood. But Eric, this scene with Fred talking to the cop, when they started to have this exchange, I'm like, wait a second. Oh, Yes, this is what happens to Fred here. I forgot that poor Fred came to his demise so quickly in this episode.
I did too.
Oh.
I did too. In fact, it was my wife who was like, "Oh, isn't he die here?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." Yeah. And then I'm like, "Oh, yeah, maybe he does."
Yeah.
Like, this is my first rewatch on season 4. I've seen it already, but this is my first time going back through.
Yeah.
And so I knew that he would die. I didn't realize it happened in this episode.
Yeah.
I thought I had another episode or two.
Yeah, because he was sort of infected with Vecna the same way that Chrissy was, but this happened really fast. So this cop is talking to him, and he starts hallucinating that this cop is grilling him and calling him a murderer, because we learn very quickly from Fred that he apparently was in this horrific car accident where his friend got killed. And he obviously had internalized that as all being his fault. And Vecna, similar to like a Freddy Krueger, is really reaching into his mind and pulling out his worst nightmares, right? Like his worst memories and the worst things he thinks about himself. He's latching on to that. And so he's imagining that the cop is talking to him about this, but he's not. And Nancy's all like, dude, why don't you, like, what was that? Why don't you take it down a notch? And he's not wanting to talk to Nancy about what actually happened. But then when Nancy is off, trying to interview Eddie's uncle, which is a really cool scene. Fred is walking.
They are here because they realize, like, they both work for this paper, and they realize, hey, listen, no one's going to care about the result of the game anymore. Like, that was our big headline. We have to like get something on this.
Yeah.
And so they go out trying to get any sort of story, and Nancy ends up talking with Eddie's uncle. Yeah. And starts to get a pretty good lead, like not a lead on what happened, but a alternate story that could be posed in this paper. So for her, it's like a home run win. She's actually getting the uncle to talk about Eddie in a different way. Yeah. And she looks up and, well, Fred's not there anymore.
I love this moment for Nancy because I feel like she is doing the thing that she wants to do, right? Like she's really following through on her dream, being a reporter, and is really good at it. You know, she disarms this guy. She's really able to have a heart-to-heart with him and see his perspective and get him to pull down his walls, because he's thinking, well, you just want to, gossip and, everyone already knows what's happened. And she's like, well, why don't you tell me what's really happening here? I want to tell your story. And it's really great. But he's describing, we then learn about, first of all, how Eddie's uncle really sees him and that this is not in his nature, just as Dustin has said. And whoever did this is pure evil. He's asked if she's ever heard the name Victor Creel. And this guy, Victor, well, apparently he lost his mind and killed his kids and his wife. He took out their eyes. And this is exactly what has happened with Chrissy. And he's saying this girl is the same way. And this guy, Victor Creel, he must have broke out of Penthurst Asylum. So that's where we've learned this guy is still being kept, apparently. But yeah, Eddie's uncle thinks that he broke out and now he's done this.
Thinks that, the state of this body is too similar to what happened before. So this has got to be connected.
Yeah. And that does sound pretty believable, right? That sounds
it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like that would be, especially if I am somebody who does not know anything about the Upside Down.
Right.
And you're trying to connect the dots.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And meanwhile, while Nancy is having this conversation, we're also getting these flashes of Fred in the woods because he's hearing the clock just as Chrissy had.
He's hearing the clock.
And he's following it out there. And we then see this giant grandfather clock just laying on the ground like a coffin. And it is chiming so loudly, and all of a sudden there's all of these zombies behind him, and now they're all also calling him a murderer. And that's when it's now dark out, and Nancy is telling this other cop who had initially let them into the neighborhood that she's lost Fred. Now this cop's like, all right, great. Now we have a situation here. And
he's like, I thought you guys left forever ago. And it's like,
no.
You're at the entrance, man. Like, how did you not?
This cop is not doing a good job.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, considering what they just saw. Yeah. What is happening here with this cop? But, yeah, Fred is having really intense visions of the accident, and he is then being knocked into this really, really deep grave that he cannot climb out of. But then when he looks down into the depths of the grave, who's there but Vecna? And Vecna is putting his hand over Fred's head again, just like he did with Chrissy, and saying, join me. And we also see what's really happening with Fred, where he is then out in the middle of this street and he's levitating off the ground, just like Chrissy did as well. And it's like, okay, I don't think he's coming back from this. And yeah, he doesn't. We see
but nobody sees this. We see this as the viewer, but there are no people with Fred. He's walked his way through the woods.
All alone.
He's walked into the middle of the street. There was, I think he saw a vision of the car on fire.
Yes.
And that's when he fell into that grave. And then that's it. That's it for Fred.
His limbs snap just like Chrissy's did as well. And he's then just dropped onto the ground. And the final scene that we see is Vecna being like detaching himself from all of these like tentacles that he is attached to within what looks like a very creepy mansion.
But it is in the Upside Down.
It's in the Upside Down.
We do see that because all the little like snowflakey things are falling, and you see outside this mansion, you see all the like the vine growth that's all over this house, and so he is in the Upside Down, and so that is what we're seeing. So there is still some way for Vecna to connect between the worlds, between the Upside Down and wherever in Hawkins.
And Eric, that is one thing that the kids, so Dustin and Max and the kids were asking Eddie about that. They're saying, wait, so when all this happened, were there like particles flying around? Like, did anything else change? And he's like, no, nothing else changed. And so this is all new territory. It seems like every season they get a different, different.
They're convinced the gate is closed. So how can this be? But it is.
Yeah, it's like he keeps learning new ways to access and torture them is what this is. They keep seeing the Upside Down in a new light. But that's the end of the episode.
Now we're going to jump into our IMDb ratings segment of our podcast, where we talk about our ratings versus your ratings as we have found them on IMDb. And we're going to give you our favorite and least favorite characters of this episode. I will say, Amanda, I found it a lot tougher to do the character portion of this one. I feel like there were a couple of characters that I liked quite a bit. There were a number of characters that I did not like at all. And so this kind of was a little bit difficult for me. How about you? What did you feel about this?
I went off I know exactly what you're saying, and I just tried to go off like my first initial gut for both of these. I mean, listen, Eric, you and I could say Angela is our least favorite character for like any of the episodes that she's in, I'm pretty sure, but so I would totally understand if you went that direction again, because that would be fair. I did try to make a different selection just because, I guess, because and I'll maybe I'll start there. So
go ahead.
My least favorite for this episode, which I kind of expressed a bit, so you might be able to guess, but I was very frustrated with Will in this episode. I picked him as my least favorite because didn't go out to help Elle. I mean, I mentioned that he doesn't roller skate, but just run out there. You don't need roller skates. Like, you can literally, this isn't an ice skating rink. You can just
you can walk on the floor.
Yes. And so it's like, where are the friends? Like, where Elle has been there to help them in all sorts of insanity. She has literally saved the world twice, and you guys aren't out there immediately when she's being circled by these bullies, and these kids are just nonstop. At least Mike was trying to talk to the DJ. Like, Will just seemed like he was frozen, not doing anything, and then he starts talking with Mike, and I get that. Listen, I understand that this is not Will's. He's not confrontational. This is not where he feels comfortable, but you got to just figure it out. Help your friend. And then on top of that, he's talking to Mike more about their friendship instead of just helping Elle. That was just, I had a real problem with that. So I hope that Will bounces back from this in the next episode, because I'm not impressed here.
And so for the first 2 seasons, right, Will is not really someone who helps. He's like the damsel in distress of this whole thing, right? And then in the 3rd season, he's able to help a little bit more. But we still see him kind of freeze in the face of danger a couple times. Yeah. It's like Dustin and Lucas and Mike and 11, and then Robin and Steve and Nancy, who have like gone through this a lot. Jonathan too. I forgot to throw him in there.
That's right.
They've seen this over and over again, and so they have experience with this. Will still kind of doesn't. He has a little bit. You'd think that he would be better. And maybe there's something different when it's like something supernatural versus your peers. But I totally understand that. The least favorite character had to come from these scenes. It's just a matter of how you read it. I'm going to go with 11. I really feel like a lot of this, I'm not blaming her getting bullied on 11, but you put yourself in this position. You lied to Mike over and over and over again just to be in a spot where this all went down.
Right. Yep.
Like, you could have just said, hey, this is going terribly.
Yeah.
And he would have understood. And you could have hung out at home and watched movies or done whatever.
Mike would have been happy
and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
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 Like this is largely on her. Now again, once you're there, it's not really on her. It's not. This is very obviously Angela's fault, and I could have picked Angela again if I wanted to. Sure. But I felt like Angela was very obvious in the first episode, and in this one, I feel like there was enough blame to go around for everybody involved at the roller rink, and I'm gonna go with 11 just because she's also the only one of the bunch that is being really dishonest about everything.
So what?
Mike doesn't know. He's trying the best. He's doing the best he can with the information he has. Angela is not dishonest about anything. She's just mean. Will is exactly as you laid him out, and 11's like lying about everything.
So one thing that it's being brought up for me as you're talking about that, though, that we really have not touched on at all is Eleven's loss of Hopper and what she's going through, right? Because part of me, I'm thinking, why is she just lying about all this stuff, sugarcoating? I think this is all, we have Max coping with the loss of her brother and her family dynamics in one way, right? Like, she's just shutting down. That's how she is coping. I think what they're maybe trying to show here for 11 is she is coping by just pretending everything is fantastic. I have all these friends. This isn't real. Like, Hopper is going down as a legend. I am wonderful. Everything is great. And I am just fine. And so it's like until things go totally nuts. And that's where she just takes the skate and just knocks out Angela. So it's like, I totally hear what you're saying, where it's like, it's not a great look for 11. She should have been making better decisions, but I think that it can be explained away there as well.
I think there is something to explain away there. I think, like at the beginning of this episode, on the flip side, like you talked about with Max and Billy, right? Max has been pulled away from this group. It was very obvious she and Lucas are not dating anymore. She is kind of disassociating from everybody, and yet when push came to shove, she showed back up with Dustin. Now, she doesn't quite feel like the same Max yet, but she's getting back to it. And 11 just feels so out of character right now for herself. She doesn't have her powers. She is just being incredibly dishonest, especially with Friends Don't Lie. And of course, like, Hopper is going to factor into that, I'm sure. But I wonder if it's not more just trying to, like, showcase for Mike, I'm okay, everything's great, I'm going to be fine, like, trying to put on a brave face. I don't know. There's something there. That being said, she's still going to be my least favorite of the group. I think I can explain away the others. Even Angela, I could just say, listen, she's just mean. That's who she is. She's true to her character. She's awful.
She is.
But
she's the worst. Yeah.
But yeah. So we move. How about your favorite? Let's flip it around.
My favorite for this episode is Max.
There you go. Just like what I was saying, like kind of coming back around.
Yeah, I really just loved that she brought the details right to Dustin, that she's staying open-minded about Eddie and really what happened there, is sharing all the details. Because I really hate that when someone like, hey, the lights flashed at my house, but then they don't say it for like 4 episodes. And it's like, what? You left out that one detail?
Yeah.
So,
well, I like the fact that that happened for her, and we didn't see it until she explained it.
Yes, I love.
Like, we didn't know that happened for her.
And she heard the screams next door.
Yep.
And she saw Eddie come out, and he was looking really afraid. I also love that she found Reefer Rick's name through all the phone calls, and I almost went. I loved Robin in this one too, but she just because she's the one who then tracked down, like, well, where's this guy's address? Like, where does he live? And they figured out actually which Rick he was. But yeah, I went with Max. I feel like she then was also able to help the group bridge that gap with Eddie once they found him as well. And now that they're all they feel like more of a unified team. And I feel like Max was a big part of that. So yeah, I went with Max here. How about you, Eric?
I'm going to take Dustin. I agree. I think we both have, gone to the right pool of characters, right? The California story was the least favorite of this episode for sure. The Finding Eddie portion was my most favorite section of this for sure. I will say that I like Dustin because he took the initiative to go to Family Video, find Steve, and like rally the group as much as he could. Then he was adamant that they were setting up the base of operations. And then when they did find Eddie, he was able to talk him down and explain like, no, let us know for real what's going on, and kind of bridge the gap in what was actually happening out there so that we could see what exactly Eddie saw and what Dustin and the gang know, and kind of connect the dots. So I could have gone with Robin. I could have gone with Max. It wasn't really Steve's best episode, so I would have been a little more surprised to go there. But I did like Steve's moment trying to talk Eddie down while Eddie had a broken bottle to his neck.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, it's fine. We're cool. We're just friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
As for ratings, I'll jump to this. I'll keep going with this. I gave this an 8.6. I thought this was a very good episode. I gave the last one a 9. I'm going to come down a little. I liked the other one. I liked the first episode a little bit more than this one, but still, I have this highly rated. I feel like solid 8, mid 8, easy. I thought about going 8.7, but I think there were a couple pieces of this story. Like, I mean, I know I wanted to make sure that we talked about the Jonathan side, but like the Jonathan Argyle golfing into the thing is a little bit less interesting to me. Nancy, I agree with what you said while we broke it down. It's good to see her following through on her dreams, but like the Nancy Fred story was very lackluster until Fred got possessed by Vecna. Like, so there were components of this that I liked a little bit less than the first one, where I thought felt like home runs across the board. This I will knock back slightly to an 8.6. How about you?
I gave this one a 9. I really was struggling with figuring out, like, do I like this one more than the last episode? Less? I kept thinking, like, is it a 9.1? Is it an 8.9? I'm like, you know what? I really like it the same. So for me, I felt like it really kept the same momentum that we saw in the first episode. I really enjoyed all of the different plot lines that we talked about within this. I really liked the Nancy storyline, because we hear that name, Victor Creel, for the first time here, and we get insight into, like, who is this? Like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And
don't get me wrong, we get a lot of information from the Nancy side of things. Yeah. Like, she is doing her reporting, and we get a lot of good information from there. Yeah. It is just, like, I think at this juncture of the story, I'm so tied into, like, where's Eddie? Let's get Eddie. Like, what's going on with Eddie? And then also the drama in California, that the Nancy side of things just seems very, like, meh.
I think it's,
and you're not wrong.
Yeah.
It's gives a good information, but it's not my until Fred gets the clock ticking.
Yeah, for me,
now we're talking.
I think it was a cool plot device to get to that information, right? Because how else would we have then organically learned about this history except through some type of reporting? Or, I mean, I'm sure there's a number of ways that we could have gotten there, but I thought that was cool. I like that.
I agree
that we got to see flashes of actually what is happening with Hopper. It didn't take over the episode, but we got to get into that a bit and see his experience. We also learn that there is this guy out there, Enzo, who has more information, and now we're going to be off to see where Joyce and Murray are. So I like that part of the story. I really enjoy, Lucas with the basketball team and trying to venture out and do a different thing, but maybe things are going to be taking a darker turn there as well, because Eric, I think your Gaston interpretation of that scene is so good. It's like they're literally going on this like witch hunt to try to find Eddie.
Like they might as well all be carrying torches
Yes.
and singing songs as they go hunt through the wilderness for Eddie. I mean, that's what this feels like.
And then I'm so glad though that they did find Eddie, and the other group, well, the correct group found Eddie. And also just this whole roller skate scene with 11. I mean, it's heartbreaking, it's brutal, but I am just like psyched that 11 finally took that action at the end. And I'm excited to see the next episode because I don't exactly remember how this plays out for 11, like in the immediate aftermath of knocking out this girl. Because
No, so the funny thing is there are 9 episodes in this season. I feel like if you had asked me coming into the season, I would have said, well, the last 3 or 4 episodes are unbelievable. And the first few they're okay. But I genuinely like these ones way more than the early episodes in past seasons. I will say, as I go back and look at all my ratings, I do recall I gave the very first episode a 9.1. And I felt like that's the only one that's been at the beginning of the season that I got into the 9s. And I remember saying at the time, I mean, for a first episode of a series, this was crazy good. Like, what else would I possibly want? It was awesome. And it was. That being said, this is the next best like start to a season that Stranger Things has had in a minute.
It's been very good. So Eric, a couple quick things that I learned
about
this
Hold on.
episode.
I have to do this though.
Oh.
So the IMDb people have given this an 8.1, which is much lower than what you and I are giving it. And that's fine. You know, you guys are all wrong. It's fine. But I will
that
say...
That was the same as the last episode, too.
It was the same as the last episode. So to me, yes, like what you were saying, it's hard to differentiate between these. I get that. To me, this one was a little bit less, so I'm going to knock it down a little bit. But like starting in the 8s is pretty good. The last couple seasons have started either at the same spot or below, and so I'm glad to see it's at least starting it in the low 8s. I'm surprised they're not higher. Genuinely,
I genuinely am curious about that, and I would love to hear from you guys. We would love to just hear your feedback. For those who are listening in, you know, are you someone that would rate this more because obviously there are a number of people that then put this in the 7s or below to get to that point, because then you also have folks out there who I'm sure gave it a 10 and, you know, they think it's perfect.
Right.
So it's like, so where do you land on this?
You can't give decimal ratings. You know, like we can give decimal ratings here because we're trying to connect to where the IMDb ratings are.
Right.
But if you were voting on this and you had to pick stars 1 to 10, I would probably not pick an 8.6. I would probably pick a 9. Yeah. You know, I would round it up to a 9 instead of an 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But then an episode that you might view as 8.1 or a 9 or an 8.2, maybe you want to give a little bit more differentiation between, and you knock it down to a 7.
Yeah.
There are also going to be people that just go through and click 1 on everything because they're haters.
Okay.
There are going to be people that click 10 on everything because they love everything.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the ratings are what they are.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they're not a little bit higher, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so a couple of the things that I just wanted to point out that I learned about this episode. Eric, are you a Rick and Morty fan?
Not really. I've seen it a little, but I couldn't put myself in that galaxy. No.
I love Rick and Morty, first of all, because it is strongly referenced to Back to the Future as well. Like Rick is very much
that
like
makes a lot of
Doc
sense.
Brown
Yeah.
and Morty is like Marty. But either way, one of the names that popped up on the computer when they were looking at all the Ricks is Rick Sanchez, which is Rick's last name. So I love that. That was a little nod to Rick and Morty, which I just had to point out. I figured there might be someone who appreciates that out there. And also another thing I learned, I know I already mentioned the Carrie reference when she got the chocolate milkshake thrown on her.
Yes.
But there was also a connection to E.T., which has been really strong in this series as a whole, with 11 being very much like the E.T. of the group. But the Byers' new residence is on Lonzo Way, which I guess is the street that Elliot lived on, the kid in E.T. So I thought that was kind of cool.
What's funny? They clearly shot the street sign and then like moved into the house.
Yep.
So they framed it on purpose. I didn't catch that reference. That's cool.
They made a point of Murray saying it when he got in the cab too to go to Joyce's house, and I'm like, and then I saw that reference. But another little take was, I guess Millie Bobby Brown spent a really long time helping other people learn how to roller skate as they were filming this episode. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny because she clearly looks like one of the worst roller skaters out there.
She's a good actress. Yeah.
but that's the thing that you hear is that, it's hard to actually look bad doing something like that. Like, if you're going to be like skiing or snowboarding or something and you're trying to look bad at snowboarding, you actually have to be very good to be able to look bad at it. Mm. It's one of those things that I have heard. I don't know how true or not that is, but that makes sense to me that and it also makes sense that there's probably not a lot of people today that have, ventured to these roller rinks. I mean, I know I did when I was younger. I know you did.
Oh, yeah.
But my kids haven't.
I thought they haven't? I thought there was a birthday party that was a roller skating party.
They did a birthday party that was ice skating when they were like, I don't know. 5.
Oh, I thought, okay, I'm definitely missing.
It's been a minute, but they have not done any sort of like skating activity.
Okay. Yeah, that was a thing for sure. I mean, we only had really like a few options around where we grew up.
No, but we do trampoline parks and stuff like that.
That was not a thing when we were kids. We did not have trampoline.
No, it wasn't.
No,
it was not.
Yeah, we had bowling, the roller skating rink, or the movies. Those are pretty much the
that's it.
Things.
Mini golf.
Oh,
throw that in there.
Oh yeah, duh. Hello.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the We Run on Reruns podcast. Please check out our socials on Instagram, on YouTube, and all the other social platforms that are out there. Again, we put all these podcasts in full on our own website, werunonreruns.com. And you can find our podcasts in full also on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So, for Amanda, this is Eric. Enjoy watching Season 4, Episode 3, Chapter 3, The Monster and the Superhero for next week. Happy rerunning, everybody.
See you later, guys.